think it's fair to say that many of us have lived through a failed relationship of some kind. And if you're lucky, you're soon back on your feet and moving on. But of course, there are instances when you feel so devastated that your life just stalls. You're consumed with grief or a blinding rage, maybe a desire for revenge, some kind of justice. These emotions are often overwhelming and all-consuming. And if you're wondering how I know this, yes, I have been there. And it dominated my every thought and action for 2 years. And for a lot of people, it can go on a lot longer than that, especially if there are children involved. The truth is, however, that this is an unhealthy and self-destructive mindset. It'll eat away at you and quite possibly make you ill, whether that's mentally, physically, or both. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I was able to put aside the loathing and fury that I felt, freeing myself from some of the most damaging negativity that I've ever experienced in my life. Hi again, Leslie Hornsby here. Ever since I learned about NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming, I've experienced firsthand how through a variety of techniques, as well as ideas about human psychology, it can help you reevaluate both how you think and feel about things. It can help you to learn to master your emotions and develop a much more positive view of your world, even when the going gets tough. And I can say, hand on heart, NLP truly has been a source of salvation and personal growth for me. And as exposing as it might be, I thought the best way to show you is to share with you the events that led to my divorce, to talk about why it was such a horrendous time for me, and how I fought my way back to sanity and peace of mind. Some of what I'm about to tell you may echo your own experiences, and some less so, as obviously everybody's story is unique. So let me set the scene for you. I met my ex-husband. I'm going to call him Jack, not his real name, because this video isn't about revenge, so I'm no interest in outing him. But I met him when I was in my late 20s. Now, life hadn't exactly been a joyride up to that point. I'd had a difficult time from the age of 15 when my body was devastated by an autoimmune disease. That not only ravaged my appearance, destroying the cartilage in my nose, so I looked like someone who spent time in a boxing ring, but worse than that, it ultimately injured and scarred my kidneys. Now, I had reconstructive facial surgery at age 19. That was to repair my profile. But as I approached my 25th birthday, my renal function deteriorated to a point where either I needed to start dialysis or receive a kidney transplant. Now, of course, I was very fortunate. My very brave and very loving mum came to my rescue and gave me one of her kidneys. Mum died in 2019, and no surprise, I miss her every single day. Needless to say, we were very close. And as I age, I do appreciate more and more the enormity of the gift that she gave me. Thanks to her, for the next few years, I was able to continue living a pretty normal life. And by my early 30s, I'd met and married my husband. I believe, for me, the demise of our relationship was particularly difficult as the circumstances and his unfathomable behaviour in the 2 years it took to divorce were particularly difficult to overcome. The mental anguish it inflicted on me ultimately trashed my health, and the result was that my transplant failed. I couldn't know it at the time, but that would result in consigning me to the next 10 years on dialysis, waiting for another transplant. I doubt even to this day he's ever understood, or cared for that matter, about what has happened to me. The lies he told to cover his infidelity, not just to me, but to our friends, to his parents, were endless. From suggesting that I was the one having the affair, to spinning the facts surrounding the pregnancy of the woman he'd left me for. He scrambled to explain how she was only pregnant for 7 months before giving birth to his twin daughters by suggesting that they were premature. And this is despite the fact that they were normal size and weight. I never knew whether his parents believed him or not, although frankly, you'd have to be pretty obtuse to accept that as the truth. When I met Jack, I had my own home. I owned my own home. He didn't. A year or so after we met, we bought a home together. And after we split, I moved out. I couldn't bear to be around him. And I took all my furniture with me. Now, his mother complained bitterly that I'd taken everything, went around telling everybody. But the truth was that Jack didn't own any of it, so I was somewhat bemused by her reaction. My ex's response was to steal the carpets we'd bought together, amongst other things, which, if nothing else, made the house really difficult to sell. So, of course, well, there were lots of other things that happened, but you know what? I don't see any benefit in dwelling on it all now. Besides, it would make this video hours long and you'd be swinging from the rafters by the time I got through it. Perhaps the most disturbing point was when he and his mistress, presumably after a night of drinking, rang my mobile and left death threats on my answer service. They laughed and they told me they hoped I would die. Obviously, I was pretty shocked. After all, I hadn't even contested the divorce and even ended up paying for it, which is another long story. We eventually did sell the house, but it was at a loss, and it really meant that for many years afterwards, I wasn't able to get myself another home. And when things finally resolved, at the end of it all, I lost my home, my job, and my health, not to mention a number of people that I believed were my friends. The destruction of the life I'd known and built was complete. Now, it won't surprise you to know it took me a long time to get over it, but I did eventually get to the point where I realised that the cycle of self-destructive thoughts just had to stop. I sought distraction and busied myself by studying for a bachelor's degree. Work was difficult because of the dialysis, but I started my own business and I worked the hours that I could reasonably manage. PD Training UK still continues today, a successful soft skills consultancy. And then some years ago, I then attended a course to learn coaching with NLP. And that's when I really began to learn how I could move on. I learned about dissociation, changing states, anchoring, and much, much more. And I used these techniques to achieve the emotional state that I needed to recover myself and find peace. For me, one of the most powerful NLP resources was the technique of shifting my perceptions. I spent time viewing my failed relationship from an emotional distance, as if I was floating outside of my mind and body, a bit like watching a film. And if you try this, then consider if you were happy before you met your partner, and if so, recount your movie at the beginning of that time. If that wasn't the case, then you can focus on the beginning of your relationship. The key is to observe without investing in the emotional aspect of the memories. Try viewing the happy memories in colour, the unhappy stuff in black and white. Watch it straight through to the present. After that, change it to a still image. And if there are key moments that have caused you particular hurt, try reimagining them. Change something about them. One of the pivotal moments for me was attaching circus music to the memory. It helped me create an enormous shift in my perception of that memory. I was able to distance myself from all the anger and the hurt. And after that, I could never again recapture those negative feelings because the comical soundtrack was playing over it and it just made it seem ridiculous. Another very important aspect of putting aside my sense of hurt and injustice was, strangely enough, accessing my own empathy. When you're in the throes of hating someone, it can be a big ask. But as I came to realise, these overwhelming feelings were just eating away at me and, frankly, not at my ex. It was important to find a way to stop those feelings. I had cast my husband as the villain, although I have absolutely no doubt that he didn't see himself in that way. And that was partly the problem. The reality was that he was actually amoral. And if you look that word up, the definition reads, lacking a moral sense, unconcerned with the rightness or wrongness of something. And frankly, that describes Jack to a T. I just came to realise that he was incapable of taking responsibility for what he'd done. He couldn't conceive of the devastation his actions caused. As I came to appreciate this more and more, I was also able to begin to feel sorry for him. I also accepted that there were times when I played some part in the demise of our relationship. And I'm not saying that I deserved to be treated the way he treated me, but the fact is, whilst he behaved badly, it didn't mean that he was entirely a bad person. What was important for me was to stop regarding myself as a victim and choose to stop allowing his behaviour to dictate how I felt about myself and my life. So one last word on the subject. You may not be aware, but people, us, we have a tendency to dwell on the negatives in our lives. Think about a time when you were down or upset. Did you by any chance feel the need to play soulful, sad music, usually about losing love or being wronged? Did you allow yourself to wallow in the injustice, recount moments of betrayal, spend hours reconstructing arguments where you rewrote the script so that you came out on top and won the day? Imagined terrible consequences occurring to your ex-partner where they finally realised what it felt like to be hurt as they'd hurt you? If you've answered yes to any of these, you're most definitely not alone. NLP is all about being the author of your own emotional well-being. How often do we yell, "You make me so angry," or "You hurt me so much"? But please, if you take anything away from this video, the best advice I can give is no one can make you feel anything. Stop giving other people that kind of power. Stop crediting them with influence over your thoughts and feelings. It's just not the case. The truth is, you decide, you choose. It isn't easy to change how you think and feel, but it can be done. The first step is to understand all of that about yourself and then do something about it. I hope this video has given you some insight into moving on from a difficult event in your life, particularly failed relationships. At its heart, NLP is about reprogramming your mind to focus on the positives and personal strengths rather than the negative. And if you've managed to find your way back from a hurtful situation, I'd really love to hear about it, how you managed it. So please do share your stories here and leave a comment below. As always, if you think talking things over might be for you and you'd like some one-to-one help, then by all means just get in touch. You can use the contact link that I've added below, and it just allows you to make a 30-minute appointment with me for a preliminary obligation-free chat. And if you'd like to learn more about NLP, there's a link to a free guide on anchoring and a couple of other NLP techniques. Remember to click subscribe to get more videos of these subjects. I post most weeks. In the meantime, thank you for your company. I hope you can join me again next time with more help and advice on leading a more fulfilled, positive life. Bye for now.